Trial of our time. We find ourselves in the midst of a rather unusual crisis, a strange and orchestrated series of events leading us towards what appears to be our doom. With twists and turns, characters and a storyline, it's being laid on awfully thick, making it an all-consuming barrage of psychological and physical realities to take on board. Well, mostly all-consuming, if you let it take over your thoughts. And of course, if you are unfortunate enough to be in the firing line of the most radical and recently implemented changes. For example, if you have been subject to weather events, housing or drug crisis, oddly devastating fires seeming to defy nature rather than be part of it. Indeed, making it quite an overwhelming situation to take in, and does seem like a trial of our time. Because there have been many that came before us, which we can now look at with fresh eyes, knowing what we know now, piecing together that which didn't even seem part of the same puzzle before, but now places itself where it has always been. And I can't help but wonder, was that meant to be part of the plan? That in using the tool of a World Wide Web to catch everyone, instead had a loophole that would mean the ones you are trying to catch actually can see it coming. You can't have one without the other, it seems. To have everyone accessible for information, those people need to have information accessible, so have been learning on their own time, in their own way. But in a time before, we are led to believe it took a certain amount of time to get news to where they wanted it. Had to print papers, distribute them, get people talking about things and working on division and confusion in a much slower format. Now we seem to be in the superhighway version of that, where people can consume and move on before there is even time to discuss it, digest it, or even understand it, forgetting about yesterday and last week in the blink of an eye. Or so it would seem. Not all forget, and although computers are quite useful in their field, the human brain and its capacity for adaptability and strategy is unique, and is indeed able to process a vast amount of information and give it nuanced thought and application. I can see why they might want to infiltrate it and assimilate it with computers, and can even imagine what it is they think they might create, which is why I am not a fan of the whole idea. For now, we are analogue and manual creatures, trying to be forced into a digital extreme, which outside of the obvious hooks of convenience and creating an orderly society, it's detrimental to our health on many levels. Which is how they convinced people, I believe, to think they need help, and handouts, and medications to get through life. For there to be an overseer who doesn't just check in on you from time to time with a medical checkup or a census. Oh no, this one wants to be in your head, literally. And with you for every breath, step and thought of your daily life. Like a digital stalker, but who is actually your shadow, rather than an external entity trying to get to you. One that is inbuilt, and is always there to mentally sit alongside and inside your physical presence. Sounds completely normal, doesn't it? It's kind of outrageous when you think it all through. What is happening? What has happened? And speculating on what is going to happen. It seems as though the gloves are off, and all is trying to be achieved at once. Thinking that if people are overloaded with worry, fear and confusion, they will just roll over and step aside, and allow the brazen cull and poisoning of life as we know it. Not just allow it, but they are actively allowing people to take part in it. Like continually pouring water on someone while telling them they will dry off in a minute, and they believe you, and then offer to hold the hose for you and do it to themselves. It seems madness, which is why I do accept that some people aren't coping, or have critical thinking skills, or just general awareness to fully comprehend the situation that is unfolding. How it is a complex, rather far-reaching project spanning quite a number of decades and ideals, and the planning that goes into creating the chaos that is needed for those ideals should not be understated. But they do have a weak point, as a plan or system always does, and the weak point is people, as at the moment it relies on people to do the dirty work and help to enslave your own. After a certain time, it seems, we will no longer be at the mercy of us, because machinery will take over. Can't reason with or manipulate a machine, only reprogram or destroy, so the game changes somewhat, and that weakness disappears from the system, making it stronger. It's hard to know if they really do want everyone enslaved, or dead, or just as needy subjects they can pump medications into and drip feed entertainment to power their future, or if we are all now surplus to requirement, as they have all their supercomputers and fancy houses now, land and all the money. So what do they really need all these extras hanging around for? Well, my article perhaps speculated on a certain need there might be by those types of people, and as they treat people with contempt even further, we certainly know they aren't actually looking out for anyone's health, safety, or future. In fact, actively doing everything they can to do damage to those things, while saying the opposite. Like I said above, why don't you hold the hose for them? And that's where many unwittingly have, by going along with the insane requests. That meant the game was on, and even those not playing get dragged in, because it's one that can't just be stopped once it's begun.